some people don't even pay attention to what they actually want to eat for dinner. They're just like, what sounds good to everyone? But to your point, when you start paying attention, then you also start building that knowing of hearing your own knowing.
Do you think it's possible to discover your unique purpose in life if you are not connected and listening to your intuition, I mean?
It's way more likely, and you're going to actually discover more than one purpose often if you're really tuned in to your intuition and you're intentional about it. But what I'll say for someone who feels like they can't hear their gut, but they still want to find their purpose, a friend of mine says that you're best positioned to serve the person you once were, right? Trent Shelton, our friend, says one day the things you're going through right now will be the things you made it through.
Yeah.
And what I would say to someone listening right now is, look at something in the past that has broken your heart, that has caused you grief, that has been something that you care deeply about, whether it's positive or negative, that you've gone through, something you care deeply about, or maybe pain you've gone through, something you have made it through. I believe often when we go through the hardest times in our life, it's for one of two reasons.
What are they?
It is to either equip us with the strength we need to carry the weight of our success that's to come, to carry the weight of our purpose that's to come, or we've gone through these horrible, unspeakable times, things we would never want to happen to us again in our life, because we're actually going to get our greatest source of fulfillment and purpose by one day helping someone else who's going through them.
I love that saying that you're best equipped to help the person you used to be.
Yes.
So let's go to that moment, Jamie. You're 3 years in.
Yeah.
You've burned through the money.
Yes.
You have been told no by everybody. And even though you have leveraged all of the steps that were ordered along the way, and like an amazing Denny's waitress, you can talk to anybody, you can hustle, you can figure it out. You have nothing but closed doors in front of you.
Yes.
And a ton of product and no money.
Yes.
What is the turning point?
Yes.
Why did you not give up?
Yeah. So 2 big things happened. The first was in the form of a crazy, painful rejection. So I thought, Mel, so we got a call from a big potential investor, and very famous for launching all these sort of unknown brands and making them big products we all buy in grocery stores. And, and I thought, and they got a hold of our product. And I thought like, oh, if they invest, then A, I'm not going to go bankrupt. B, like we can leverage their clout to get in these stores that keep telling me no. Yeah. Like I had this whole scenario planned out that was like this Pretty Woman moment, right? Where I was like, oh, he's going to save the day. And so we started taking meeting after meeting, and it got down to the final meeting with this huge investment firm. It was in person. My husband and I actually flew to the meeting, and the head guy was about 3 feet from me. Yeah. And his whole team was there, who was awesome. I just presented our whole future product pipeline. And he says, you should be so proud of this product you've created. It's really, really good. But it's a no. We're going to pass on investing in it cosmetics. And I was like, okay, can you tell me why? Because I'm so used to hearing no. And I was like, okay, even though really I was devastated.
Well, yeah, because this was supposed to be the meeting where they're like, let's do this.
And I was so hopeful and I was so desperate.
Yeah.
And he got very quiet and he says to me, do you want to know, I said, can you tell me why? And he says to me, do you want me to be really honest with you? And I said, yes, please. And he got really quiet, and he's like 3 feet from me in person. And he says, I just don't think women will buy makeup from someone who looks like you with your body and your weight. And when he said that to me, and this is why it was such a big moment for me, when he said that to me, first of all, a lifetime of body doubt and self-doubt. Like I remember it flooding my body all at once. When I looked at him, I actually felt no anger toward him. I felt like I was almost like staring my own fear straight in the eye. But when he said those words to me, Mel, and this is when we talk about purpose and intuition, he said, I just don't think women will buy makeup for someone who looks like you with your body and your weight. The second he said that, I felt this feeling in my gut. Like I can remember it like it was yesterday, this like strong feeling that said, he's wrong. Like I felt it, right? And I didn't know how I was going to prove it, but I felt that feeling. And what I realized later when I look back at that moment, this dude gave me a no, but God gave me a knowing in that moment. And I believe every one of us has had someone tell us we're not the right fit, or no, or you don't have what it takes. Sometimes we're the ones telling ourselves that.
I don't love you anymore.
Yes, right? But if you get still and you learn to hear your knowing, I believe which one you listen to. If you listen to the no, all the no's, all the rejections, all the self-doubt, or you get still and listen to your knowing, whether that's from your own intuition, from your creator, from the universe, whatever speaks to you, but we all have it. We all have it. And I believe our life and our purpose and our entire destiny comes down to which one we listen to. Do you listen to the no, or do you listen to the knowing?
Okay, I promised a masterclass. That right there is worth $1 billion. In life, are you going to listen to the no, or are you going to listen to the knowing inside of you? That's it.
Yeah.
As somebody who loves you and as your friend, when you shared that story with me and hearing you tell it again right now, I literally go, I'm going to kill that motherfucker. I have that, my knowing goes, oh yeah? Oh yeah? You think, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me show you. Like it's that, like I get that sort of mojo thing going when somebody says no like that at a moment like that. It's like, I'll show you. And I guess I just got in this moment, sort of this wake up call that my knowing often feels like, I'll show you.
Yeah.
You missed out. You'll be sorry. What does yours sound like?
And it's almost always true. That's almost always true, right?
What does yours sound like?
I mean, in that case, I was devastated and at the same time had this strong, it was just a peace. Honestly, in that moment, it was a peace. He's wrong. And that didn't make sense in my head. Why? Because I had 3 years of hundreds of rejections. And this is the thing, right? Jay-Z says the genius thing we did was we didn't give up. That's like one of my favorite quotes of his. In that moment, everything told me to give up, Mel. I mean, it was hundreds of rejections. And now what felt like my last hope of desperation told me something totally different. No, because not only do I not believe in anything you're doing necessarily, but I actually just think you're personally not the right fit. Women just won't buy makeup from. It was just like, oh my gosh, all of these no's everywhere. And I want to share that because it's easy for someone to go, oh, wow, she built $1 billion company. She must have just got lucky. Or maybe she just had so many connections. But really what it comes down to sometimes, in this case, that big moment for me, do you listen to the no's or you listen to the knowing, right? Yeah. And I made that decision that day to trust the knowing, to trust myself. I kept feeling like I was supposed to keep going. I didn't know how, right? And
what do you do when you don't even know the next step? So you got this kind of, jerk who's like, yeah, I'm not going to buy it because of your body type and this, that, and the other thing. You're like, yeah you're wrong, motherfucker. Yeah. But what do you do next?
And so the next right step, the next thing that feels right when you can't even see how the heck it's going to work out. How do you even
determine what the next right step is?
Yeah, for me, I just get still. I pray, you know that. Yeah. I pray. And but whether for you, listening, it's prayer or it's the universe or your intuition, when you get still, all you can do is try to listen. Right. And try to live that answer, whatever it is, and take that next right step. And I just had this knowing I was supposed to keep going. And even when it didn't make sense. And I remember crying myself to sleep. I remember writing in my journal, know your why, then fly, girl, fly. And I read those words every day till I didn't need the reminder. I would Google stories of people that had gone through thousands of rejections who no one would know that they went through them because they're so successful today. Or, and I just kept trying to sort of build this toolbox of things I could lean on.
How did QVC come about? Because you built It Cosmetics and it became, because of you, the most successful beauty brand on all of QVC. You did over 1,000 appearances.
Yeah.
So how did you even get onto QVC? Because that in and of itself is no small feat.
Well, their head guy of beauty, who's like a legend, had said no to me many times. No, you're not the right fit. And I happened to be at this big beauty expo.
And was this before or after this guy was like, no, we're not investing?
After.
So she has now gotten 3 years of no's.
Yeah.
They're almost out of money. Her intuition is knowing that she's going to fly, girl, fly. So she is still showing up to a beauty expo where I want you to understand, in the business world, it's like going to a convention where everybody that you have ever fooled around with, who has then broken up with you, is attending. So everybody that has said no to her, she walks in and it's like, oh, here's this chick again. The it chick, right?
Yep.
It cosmetics person that has been sending me the stuff and calling me, and we have told her no, do not make eye contact.
This describes it exactly. Yes. Everyone you fooled around with, who broke up with you, and they're like, oh, don't make eye contact.
Oh, it's God, that. This chick again. Yes. with the skin.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're at this thing. You've been told no by the big person. It's been 3 years. So we're talking like 2011, 2012-ish. What do you do?
So you get this 3-foot table, right? It's a huge convention. There's 6,000 women at this convention. Wow. They're walking up and down, and it's every beauty brand in the world.
Are they buying it for their stores or?
No. So what it is, it was this big Cosmetic Executive Women Awards show.
Okay.
You get a 3-foot table. You're demonstrating your product. You're hoping that someone who walks by either wants to carry your product in their stores or all the press is there. Right. They cover your product. And when I got there, I saw QVC had this huge booth in the background, and you're not allowed to leave your table, right? I couldn't afford to get kicked out. But I just kept having this feeling like, okay, I've called them a million times. They've told me no forever, but I've never met anyone in person, right? So I kept trying to sneak away from my table. And every time I got over there, the buyers would be mobbed with people. I eventually got over there, made my way to one of the buyers, introduced myself, poured my heart out. I remember sweat just dripping through my clothes because I was freaking out, down to no money. Yeah. I'll cut a real long story short, but she gave me her card. It's like when someone says, oh, DM me on Instagram. You don't know if they really mean it. Then you're on your Instagram checking your DMs and you're like, oh, they still haven't replied. And I thought, is that what it's going to be like? But she actually meant it. And I flew out, had a meeting with her. We got a yes, my first big yes for one shot on QVC. And what it meant, Mel, was I was going to get this 10-minute segment live on the air, live in front of 100 million homes. And I either had to sell enough product to hit their sales goal or not come back. We were only doing 1 to 2 orders a day on our website.
Okay. And 1 to 2 orders a day, everybody.
Yep.
After
almost
3 years of this.
Yeah.
This is
barely keeping the lights on.
And so now you get your shot. Like there are those moments in life.
Yes.
You're at bat.
Yep.
And you got to be ready for those.
Yeah.
And so put us right there with you. What happened?
Yeah. What happened was I was about to learn one of the greatest life lessons I've ever learned to this day. Here's what I mean by that. So I found out I get one shot and I had to sell over 6,000 units of our concealer in this 10-minute window to hit their sales goal or not come back, which was about like $130,000, $140,000 of product in a 10-minute window.
I also want to point out to everybody, that's 10 years of sales on her website at the current amount. So in 10 minutes, everybody.
Yeah.
She, on live television, has to move 10 years worth of volume she was selling on her website at that time.
In one shot.
In one shot. And she'd never done this before. I realize you were a television anchor, but this is a totally different thing.
Well, QVC, it's unlike stores where you can walk in and there's thousands of products in one space. Their 1 minute of airtime can get one product. So you're competing with the volume of like Apple iPhone or Dyson vacuum. You have to hit these high sales goals.
Yeah.
And what I quickly learned was the offer was consignment, which meant I wasn't guaranteed to be paid for it. I had to figure out how to get a loan to cover the cost of manufacturing 6,000 units of product, shipping it in, going through legal, going through QC, going through all of it. And then I learned if I go on air and it doesn't sell, I have to take it all back and therefore go out of business, right? So you should never, ever, ever accept a purchase order you can't afford to lose ever. But at this point, it was like, I don't know what else to do. This is it.
The shot.
This is it. And so here's what happened. We went to 22 banks that all said no, and they probably should have. The 23rd bank, which was California Bank and Trust, and gave us a loan that covered our very first purchase order and a little bit more. So I took the little bit more. We hired third-party consultants. I'm like, I'm going all in. I want to do the best 10 minutes I could possibly do. I want to have no regrets. And they all told me the same thing. Which is, if you want a chance at making it, here's what you need to do. You need to use this type of model to demonstrate your product, which is flawless skin, early 20s, all the same skin tone. And I'm like, okay, but that's inauthentic. That's not why I'm building this brand. I'm like, what if I put models in their 70s and someone with hyperpigmentation and someone with acne? And what if I take my own makeup off on national TV and I could prove live how the product works? And they were mortified. And here's the thing, Mel, they wanted me to win. Like they were giving me the best advice that they know how.
Did people say, wait, you can't take them on the air? Or was there any were people like, oh, this is just going to be terrible? Like, what was that like when you walked in? Did they even know you were going to take your makeup off?
Yeah, I let them know I wanted to. And QVC was great. They want everyone to be their authentic selves. It's just, this has never been done this way before.
Okay.
And I wish I could say it was easy for me to just go, I'm just going to go with my knowing. But the truth is I flew out there a week early, Mel. I sat in a rental car in the parking lot, cried every day. I actually second guessed myself. I'm like, if I do it, maybe I'll do it their way first. Then I'll make money. Then I'll do it my way. But I know that you can't fake authenticity. And authenticity alone doesn't automatically guarantee success. But what I do know is inauthenticity guarantees failure every time.
Okay, everybody stop. The professor classes in session. Do you hear that? That inauthenticity, being fake, trying to do something everybody else's way, because that's just, you're too insecure to do it your way, that never guarantees success.
Yeah.
Authenticity, your knowing, your special spin on things.
Yeah.
That is the pathway to purpose and success. And so after a week of crying in your rental car in the parking lot at QVC, you were like, I'm going with the knowing.
I'm going with the knowing.
And so tell us about that first appearance. You're standing there on a television set. There's a bazillion cameras. The lights are bright. You got your models there. You're taking the risk of your lifetime on live television in front of 100 million homes.
Yes.
You are doing something that has never been done on television before.
Yeah, I remember literally I wore 2 pairs of Spanx, Mel, not because I cared how I looked, but like I was so freaked out. Like my hands were shaking and I was sweating through my clothes. So I had on double Spanx under my dress. And I remember the moment the camera went live, right? And there's a big countdown clock on the floor that started at 10 minutes. And by the way, a minute or two before I went onto the set, I learned you're not guaranteed your 10 minutes.
Why?
If you are a minute or two into your cell and you're not hitting numbers, they know by the second. Your clock, you might think you have 8 minutes still to go and your clock will jump to 1 or jump to 2 minutes left.
Because your product's a flop.
Yep, exactly.
And you're a flop. So you literally are racing against the clock to be successful out of the gate. So what did you do to like hook everybody? Did you take your makeup off right away?
Yeah.
What did you do?
So I, first of all, I go out of the, I go live. I remember it was like 9:59, 9:58, and I'm like, and I remember I had practiced in my bathroom mirror, right? So many times. If I had known the high five habit then, I would have been way more confident. But I was practicing in the bathroom mirror this demonstration a million times on my wrist, how our concealer doesn't crease and the best 2 selling concealers crease. And I'd done this demonstration like this where I show it and they all start to crease. So I'm holding my wrist up, trying to do this as we go live, but my hand's like this now. And it was never like shaking when I was doing it a million times.
It wouldn't bend, everybody. Like she was so anxiety-ridden that she's sweating through her Spanx and her wrist will not bend, so she cannot demonstrate that her product won't crease.
Yes, and the host grabbed my wrist and was like, "Thank you, sugar," and she took over. And then I remember my bright red bare face before shot coming up on national television. I remember walking over to our models, real women, all shapes, sizes, skin tones, skin challenges, calling them beautiful, meaning it.
So when did you take your makeup off? When she grabbed your hand and said, "Thank you, sugar"?
Yeah.
Did that wake you up, or were you like...
I was like out of my body. I was just praying.
Did you like just then take your makeup off?
Well, they did a whole bare face before shot of me for that show. I've taken it off live a million times since. That first show, it was like, bare face before shot. And then the after, I remember we were, 6 or 7 minutes in. I didn't know how we were doing, but I knew we weren't cut yet. And then it got down to like a minute left. And the host said, the deep shade's almost gone. The tan shade's almost sold out. And I was like freaking out. And I remember literally right at the 10-minute mark, this giant sold out sign came up across the screen. And I start crying on national television.
Oh, I love you.
They cut from me and went to like Dyson vacuum or something. And I remember my husband came rushing through the double doors of the studio and he's like, has his arms up and I'm just sobbing. And I'm like, real women have spoken. And I'm just like crying. And I thought he was going to give me a hug or be all excited. And he just looked at me and he's like, "We're not going bankrupt." And I was like, "Ah." And I just, that one airing, which was September of 2010, became 5 more that year, then 101 the next year. And then I did 250 live shows a year myself, direct live on QVC year after year. So we built the biggest beauty brand in QVC's history. And the only reason that I share that is because it was years of no, and you're not the right fit. And what I love for anyone listening who needs to hear this is no one can tell you you're not the right fit. No one. And you can get all the no's in the world, but you have your knowing. And by the way, I believe this, Mel. I believe even when you trust your knowing and then it seems like it was wrong and things don't go your way over and over and over. Like I look back at those moments, right? I really wanted that investor to invest in us. Thank God he didn't. When I say everything's happening for us, what I mean is like, I was so desperate that if he would have invested in us then, I probably would have given him the majority of the company for probably almost no money, right? By the time, 6 years later, after that day, 6 years later, when L'Oreal bought this little company I started in my living room for $1.2 billion cash, Paulo and I were largest shareholders. And I look back and it's like, oh gosh, thank God all the no's happened when they did, even when they sucked, even when it felt like it wasn't fair. And I can look at that in many scenarios. Sometimes we don't have some big positive outcome, but we learn a purpose through a no. Right? We learn a calling through a no. We learn a lesson. We build strength. We build resiliency. We appreciate the beautiful moments so much more when we've gone through the tough ones.
So have you ever seen that investor since?
I have not seen him.
Of course, I asked the petty question. I'm like, have you ever seen him to twist the little knife in there? Okay.
So I heard from him one time ever again. And it was 6 years later, the day that L'Oreal announced the deal. So because they're a public company, they announced, that they had acquired It Cosmetics, maybe the first woman to hold a CEO title of a brand in their 107-year history. They did the big press release. So
that's kind of surprising. 107 years, L'Oreal, a makeup company. It took them that long to have the first female CEO of a brand?
I hope they have many more now. That is my prayer. But so they announced it, right? So all of a sudden it was homepage of the Wall Street Journal, the press everywhere. And that was the first time and only time since that I heard from that potential investor.
And what did he say?
He said, "Congratulations on the L'Oreal deal. I was wrong," is what he said, and wished me the best of luck. And
that's a big deal to admit you're wrong.
It is. And so when you speak about petty, what I did say to him was thank you. But what I wanted to say,
what did you want to say?
So in that moment, here's what I thought about. I thought about, do you remember the movie Pretty Woman where like she goes in the store and they wouldn't help her? And then she goes back. Remember when she goes back?
Yes.
So I wanted to say to him, big mistake. Huge. I could give you 1.2 billion reasons why it was a huge mistake. But I didn't. I wouldn't have wanted to be him in that situation. We probably would have been one of the most successful investments in his firm's history. So I always say rejection is God's protection so often,
There's another one, everybody. Rejection is God's protection.
Yeah.
It's a good way to frame it. And I think when you look in the rearview mirror, you know that all the rejections you faced, especially in relationships, were there to protect you. I think the true thing that you've taught me through your story and through the example that you continue to set, Jamie, is that true power and grace and grit and belief is about seeing that in front of you, not behind you. that the rejections that you're facing right now, that you can look ahead and realize it's protecting you in this moment. After doing something so extraordinary, and you also have made a huge difference in women's lives around the world because you are extraordinarily philanthropic. $40 million worth of product and monetary donations to people that are struggling with cancer. What is next for you? Because you are right now in the middle of figuring out on this next leg of the journey called life what your purpose is and what your next thing is going to be. What tools are you using, or how are you thinking about it? So many people, particularly after the last 3 years, have had a profound life change thrust on them. And they're looking ahead at an open road, wondering what their purpose is going to be, what they're going to do. Can you just speak to that person for a minute about how you're going about figuring it out?
Yeah. So one thing I just want to remind everyone too, Mel, because I think people put so much pressure on themselves that their purpose has to be their job or their next job. And a lot of times we can be doing a job that's fine. And maybe for family reasons, we need that health coverage and we need that paycheck, and your purpose can be found in the things you do outside of that, right? There's a lot of ways to listen to that knowing and your gut. And then when it feels right, you know that's aligned with who you're born to be and how you're born to show up in the world. And so for me right now, there's that famous saying, just because you can, should you, right? There's a big part of me now with all these, could I go launch a bunch of businesses? Yes. And what I feel drawn to is literally, because here's the deal. Yes, I've built $1 billion business. Yes, I have other companies I invest in.
You also are married and you have 2 beautiful children.
Yes, a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old.
Incredibly devoted to your family.
Well, and here's the thing, is like, that's all part of my story. But when I look at my real story, meaning the part that ties deeply to my purpose, like my real story is a girl who went from not believing in herself to learning how to. And so when I wake up in the morning and I think about the things I've done so far, the things I hope for my kids for, and how I built $1 billion business, it was really through seeing women, helping them see themselves and believe in themselves and believe they are worthy and enough. And that's what fires me up every morning. So when I think about what I'm stepping into next, I wrote Believe It, my book about how to go from underestimated to unstoppable, donated all the proceeds. I'm donating all the proceeds around 100%. I funded leadership.
Hold on. Let's just underscore that. So she writes a New York Times bestseller, donates all the proceeds from the book.
Yeah.
So you're kind of in this soup of knowing that this is the area where you want to focus the impact, but it's still a fuzzy target, so to speak, as our friend Dean would say, it's a fuzzy target. If somebody kind of has a sense that there's something more, but they don't quite have they haven't had that aha moment yet that you had almost 14 years ago sitting on that television set, I'm going to make makeup and I'm going to bring real women in. I'm going to show my skin and I'm going to solve this problem. I'm going to make people think that they're beautiful because they are beautiful no matter what their body. And you did it. You did it. But if you're in the soup, and you don't have the vision yet, is there an exercise or something that you would recommend that we all do while we're waiting for that clarity and that epiphany to strike?
Yeah, 2 things. One, waiting for it to be perfect can be the lowest vibration, biggest excuse, number one reason why people just never try and never get started. So I think it's rare to ever have complete clarity, like this is exactly perfect for it. And that's why, I think 2 things. I think just taking a step and seeing how it feels is good, tuning into your knowing. I also think you mentioned our friend Dean, who was saying it's a fuzzy target. He was saying something to me recently about, almost like when you're about to aim a bow and arrow and you're about to let go of the arrow, he's like, you can aim and turn it and twist it a few times before you let go of the arrow. It's okay to wait a little bit and just make sure you're going to aim at the right thing. So this year, for example, I've kind of been doing that. I've been saying, how do things feel? I have the gift and blessing of being here with you right now.
How does this feel?
Feels amazing.
Well, like you, and maybe this is one of the reasons why we have become such dear friends in such a short period of time. And I often say on the show that I truly believe that the best years of your life and the best friendships that you'll have are on the road ahead. But a lot of the reason why we connected so profoundly, even though we are different in many, many ways, is that it goes back to the Denny's waitress. Like at my core, I am still the waitress making money, waiting tables at the Red Rooster Tavern on Scenic Drive in North Muskegon, Michigan. Same as you, stalling because the fryer has now broken and the fried perch is not coming out. And I'm talking to the tourists from Chicago and I'm treating everybody kindly. And I know that all I want to do is impact people's lives that are just got their head down and they don't feel very seen or heard. And I want to make them know that they have it within them to tap into this incredible power inside them to create whatever they want in life.
Yes.
And it starts with believing that you can. And having somebody like you on who has demonstrated that is really important for people to hear.
You know, on that topic of friendship, I love so much that you are the friend that people need to your audience. And I'm honored to be the friend for this episode with you to everyone. And so honored to be part of that.
Thank you. I think one of the things that I've learned, and it took me a long time to learn this, is that there is so much success and happiness to go around. And when you lift other people up and you reach out for help, that your success comes faster and it's richer.
Yes.
And it goes back to purpose. It goes back to that knowing and staying connected to your intention and this unique thing that you have to give to the world. It is not only your responsibility in life to stay connected to your knowing. It is your responsibility to advocate for it because only you have seen it in your heart and mind. Of course, your family says no. They don't even know what you're talking about because they only know the person that you've been in the past. Of course, the investor is going to say no. Why? Because they only know what they know. Your knowing is yours. And you have to stay connected to it. And you have to keep describing it or advocating for it or explaining it to people so that they can see it too. And it's not until you demonstrate what you see in your own heart and mind by continuing to walk toward it, continuing to talk about it, continuing to believe in it, that it will become a reality. And that's why people say no, because it's your knowing. Not theirs. And so in a weird way, a ton of no's or a lot of friction or bumping up against things as you're trying, you can't understand, why don't people get this? Why isn't this working? It's because it's your knowing, not theirs.
Yeah.
Amazing. You're just the freaking best. And in case nobody else has told you, I want to just make sure that we end by saying that I love you. I know Jamie does too.
Yeah, I love you also. And you're worthy of your greatest hopes and your wildest dreams and all the unconditional love in the world and your purpose and worthy of grace, you know, the grace that you want to give yourself on this journey. And we're all in it together. That's the beauty and power of your show also. Like we're all in it together.
We are.
Yeah.
We are. Well, we believe in you. So get out there and do it. Oh, one more thing. It's the legal language. This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. It is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a physician, professional coach, psychotherapist, or other qualified professional.